Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. So there's this story floating around that NXT 2.0 is quote unquote unsuccessful and disappointment, and that WWE officials are disappointed in merely 4 months. So let's go into this thing, because apparently we can just spread rumors, and this is what the internet does. So WrestleVotes apparently saying that WWE officials are disappointed in NXT 2.0, and let's just read the article. It says, internally, WWE is said to be disappointed with NXT 2.0 in its first 4 months. Sources said they thought more fans would gravitate towards the newer stars quicker than they have. Can it just be too much too fast? Either way, I don't expect any changes to the concept just yet, wrote WrestleVotes. Sources say. Who are the sources? There are no sources. Nobody said anything. Road Dogg ends up arguing with WrestleVotes over this. Road Dogg got fired from NXT 2.0, by the way. So it's very weird that NXT 2.0, if you got fired from there, you seem to have a very positive spin on, the place. If you quit, like Scotty 2 Hotty did, all of a sudden everything was negative and it's all doom and gloom and it was horrible and morale is down and yada 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 is down and all this crap, right? Before we get into that, let's just talk about the initial reporting, if you want to even call it reporting. It says, sources said they thought more fans would gravitate towards the newer stars quicker than they have. It's only been 4 or 5 months. Who the fuck is over in 4 or 5 months? You rebranded the entire brand. What were your expectations? You were going to just change things on a dime and everybody's supposed to love it? No, nobody believes that. Trust me, these people are not idiots. This is the thing that really frustrates me when it comes to wrestling media. You would have to be an idiot to believe this. And people do believe it, by the way. I saw big name podcasters running with this. You would have to be an idiot to believe this. Why? Because when you make multi-million-dollar deals, when you rebrand things, when you create things, you know it's going to take a while before things catch on. Less than a year? And you're like, damn, this is a big disappointment. It's like, it's been less than a year. Some of these people, they don't even, you still introducing new talent. They haven't been running anything yet. You wouldn't be jumping to such conclusions in less than a year. These are long-term investments. By the by, a lot of the stuff about NXT 2.0 is negative. Almost all of it is negative. But it's negative for a reason. Because they think, and by they I mean the wrestling media, that if they complain enough, and if they bitch enough, and they run off enough people from watching it or not liking it or whatever, that things will go back. And like I said in one of these videos, I talk a lot. They're not going back. They ain't going back to the way things were. Even if they wanted to, they can't, because a lot of the core members of the NXT roster are gone. Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, gone. Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, Finn Balor, gone. Finn Balor is still in WWE, but he's not in NXT anymore. A lot of those people are gone. It's over. They're not going back. So the argument that we're going to tear down NXT 2.0 because everybody hates it, even though everybody hates it, it's always the same people are basically the blue check marks on Twitter who are mad that their indie guys aren't there anymore. Everybody hates it, but we can't say why. Just so many new faces and everybody's green and but it's whatever. They don't make decisions like this, and nobody's going to put out there no official who works there is going to put out there, oh yeah, we're disappointed in this project, knowing that they have a roster full of young people who are on the internet all the time. Imagine being Braun Breaker. You're 24 years old. You're less than a year into the business. You log on to the internet. You see your name and you're like, oh, okay, some people actually like me. And then you go over into the dark side of the internet where everybody's talking shit about you. And then you see some huge account like Russell Votes or Brian Alvarez or somebody like that talking about NXT 2.0 is a failure. And you're like, I'm a failure already? I didn't do anything yet. I barely got started. Crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Do you remember? Yeah, probably sure most people probably saw this. There was a story that Vince McMahon has given up on Finn Balor. And I just looked at that and I was like, how does anybody know this? How do you know that? But that's more believable because it's been 5 fucking years. You know, it's been 5 years. You know, Finn Balor was called up in 2016. It's been 5 or 6 years. A little bit more believable. That Vince is kind of like, yeah, it ain't gonna work, whatever. You know, a little bit more believable there. But 5 months, and most of your roster is under the age of 28, and you just buy into that. Come on, man. Come on. Whoever would even put that out there would be fired immediately. That's the kind of shit that damages the morale of the roster, not people being released. That's just business. I've been at jobs where people were high turnover. Who hasn't? Especially if you work in the medical field, especially with COVID and everything, the medical field has had high turnover. People are constantly coming in and going out, coming in, going out, coming in, going out. If you work at a high pressure job, you see turnover all the time. That doesn't affect your morale. It won't make you feel bad that people are being cycled in and cycled out. You know, especially if the people have been there for a long time. You're not going to be psychologically damaged by that. It's just nonsense. But let's finally get into what Road Dogg had to say about this. So Road Dogg says, I'm the only thing not working down there. You're getting individual people's feelings mixed up with business, my friend. It's working. Then somebody says that, you know, that WWE took NXT and they destroyed it and created something else. He says, understood. But again, it's not about your thoughts or feelings. Someone running the business has to make a business decision to change course. I don't like to change either, but it's necessary sometimes whether I like it or not. And he has some other tweets too that I thought were pretty good. And it seems to me that he's giving Russell Votes, he's being very charitable when it comes to Russell Votes, right? Because I don't believe shit Russell Votes says. But he's at least saying, there's probably somebody down there who don't like it, which, you know, definitely there is. And that's usually what the dirt sheets are, is somebody who's frustrated or disgruntled for whatever reason, have an opportunity to send an email to a dirt sheet and say, oh, this is what everybody thinks, as if they talk to everybody. And, you know, that's the kind of things that goes on. When in reality, that's not what everybody thinks, not even what most people think. It's just what some people think. Road Dogg says, I disagree with their take, their being Russell Votes' source. Think about it from a logical business standpoint. They can do no wrong. They're getting paid for content, developing new characters while getting experience in the ring. Every show wishes their ratings, which mean nothing, were higher, but it's working. And then later on, he says, and I think this is, you know, probably for the best. Somebody talks about, oh, the ratings are going down. So he says, agreed, but it's a total revamp of the brand. But the contract with USA is for years, not months. Time takes time, and big business looks at the big picture. Which is how somebody who, you know, works with millions of dollars is going to look at things. How would somebody abandon? I don't know how much money, you know, NXT is getting. I heard it was $20 million or something like that. Still a lot of money, okay? You don't abandon those kinds of projects in 4 months, 5 months. You just don't. It's stupid to think that way. These are long-term investments. You're looking at some of these people, man. They're bringing in some of these folks. They're 20 years old. You know, you don't want at all to be. It's so ridiculous. And yet, you're probably going to have your favorite podcast guy running around here talking about, see, there's people inside WWE that hates NXT 2.0. Like, shit, I'm sure there are. Because they probably got friends who got fired. And friends who are now gone. Or maybe they're a lazy bastard who now finally has to do some goddamn work. But then I also saw some dirt sheets say, well, all those people got fired from NXT and, well, nothing changed. It's like, well, because maybe those people weren't necessary. Ultimately, the big picture is what we're talking about here. The NXT experiment, the NXT 2.0 experiment is barely underway. This is a long form thing here. We're talking years out. We're not even talking this, everybody's huddling around the internet to look at what the ratings are this week is the most myopic shit in the world. Nobody cares what your rating is this week. They look at the aggregate of all your ratings over a long period of time. I've had to say this 100 times. This is why I don't talk about ratings week to week. It doesn't matter. It only matters if it's trending upwards or if it's trending downwards. Now, NXT 2.0 is trending downwards, which means they're probably going to do something to trend it back upwards again. But we also don't know what the ceiling is or what the floor is for this, or what the wiggle room for this brand is. We don't know. It's fairly new. But we do know that the ratings were not good when you looked at the roster that they had at the time. When they had the roster 6 months ago, when Cole was there and Finn Balor was there and all those guys were there, and they still weren't drawing that much. It's like, do you really expect new people to draw more instantly? Like, no. It makes no sense. And it makes no sense for people to even think that way, but they do. And it's sad. It's sad people can't critically think for themselves anymore. You just think whatever some quote-unquote wrestling media website tells you to think. It's stupid. You think multi-million-dollar deals are hinged on 1 week of ratings swung one way or the other. Without any context, without any sort of discussion, without looking how much it costs to produce this show, without looking at, whatever other tertiary issues might be brought to the table. It's all about the almighty, what is the demo? And he's kind of looking at this shit like they're probably not even thinking about that in those terms yet. They restarting the brand. Essentially, it's a reboot. And guess what? NXT is today what it was when most people started watching it. When it became the super indies, when most people started becoming, all the fickle fans jumped on it. But it had already amassed its own little fan base on the network before that. I was hearing about NXT long before most of the indie guys showed up. I think the only real hardcore indie guys that were there were like Neville and Sami Zayn. I think Kevin Owens was just about to come in. When I first started watching it, there weren't a lot of indie guys there. It was mostly developmental. By the time people were, saying NXT is the greatest thing of all time, it was because it was a bunch of indie guys. But with that, you call it's an increase in payouts. These dudes don't come cheap. They got 10, 15 years of experience. They want to be paid for it. So you have to pay these guys 10, 15 years of experience, pay them what they feel like they're worth, and you can't draw that back. NXT has always been a money pit. So it might as well be a money pit for the future, so you can plant seeds for the future. Why, again, nobody can tell me why we should continue paying high five, six figures to 36-year-old fucking midgets. Nobody has been able to explain that to me yet outside of, we get sprinkles from the good match fairy. I don't give a fuck. All right? Nobody cares. But I'm off subject. I'm off the subject. Which one do you believe? Do you truly believe that WWE officials are going to put out there for their young fans and all the young people who are in the NIL program who hang out on, all their Instagram followers, they're going to stumble across this and see like, they hate this program already. Maybe I shouldn't sign up there. That doesn't seem to make much sense. Doesn't seem to make much sense to me that they would put that out there. Sounds like something somebody made up, or somebody feeding somebody a bad story, or they talk to a disgruntled employee. It doesn't matter. But ultimately, sounds like bullshit to me.